Okay, what was that again?
For the record, no. So I got my wife flowers, and I got her two Valentine's Day cards. One was like a goofy one, like a joke, and then the other one is a more romantic one.
Nice, man.
But I had class yesterday, so we're gonna schedule our dinner another day, probably on the weekend.
Good deal. That sounds great. What about you, Liv?
So Valentine's Day is my birthday.
That's right, of course it is.
So it kind of like
So did you give yourself a card? And
it
some
kind of
chocolates?
flips Valentine's Day around, right? When I have a
Yeah.
girlfriend, because it's kind of more about me, but usually I'll get flowers or a card or
But you didn't do anything because you don't have a girl that's right now.
I don't have a girl right now, no.
Did
but,
you get Heath anything? He's
uh,
not a girl.
no,
Never
so
mind.
my mom drove down today and she's visiting for the next week. And I'm going up to Tahoe this weekend. And I also had class last night and Patrick got the whole class to sing happy birthday to me. So
You
that was
deserve
nice.
that. You deserve that and more. This
That was
whole class should
nice.
have brought you chocolates. All right. Now, to me, it may not be much, but I'm all I think about. So
Hold on.
you just got
Yeah.
we have Evan. Just zipped right by Evan. Evan, that's
Yeah,
good, man.
I just got lunch with my girlfriend in the park. Nothing much.
You took your girlfriend to lunch
Yeah.
In
Got
Carp?
the card, yeah.
and a card
Yeah.
because it's Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah.
You remember Valentine's Day when you were a kid? I don't know what it was like for you guys because I went to school, elementary and all those schools so many decades prior to you. But when I was a kid in school on Valentine's Day, you made a Valentine for every kid in your class. Every kid in your class got a Valentine. Period. So that means you got a bunch of Valentines. And that was kind of a cool deal. Now, do you know how Valentine's Day started? What it's about?
like a Hallmark card.
Valentine was sainted, but he was a Roman in the time of the Roman legions, somewhere, I think probably BC. No, it was AD. So I'm sorry. So it was AD. So if you were a Roman legionnaire, you were forbidden under penalty of death from marrying. You couldn't marry. They didn't want their soldiers to have families. It makes sense. So you don't want to be hesitant about your life because you have something to live for. You want to be able to just give your life to the Roman legion. So if you were caught married, you died. And Saint Valentine, was a priest, and he married Roman legionnaires in secret, and was found out and was killed for it. Was put to death, and so he was later sainted. And he's the patron saint of lovers, star-crossed lovers. Now, I was married for 22 years, and my wife left me on Valentine's Day.
Ooh.
The wife previous to this wife. So I have a real bad taste in my mouth about Valentine's Day. And I didn't have a real good taste in my mouth about Valentine's Day, even previous to that. But now it's kind of like, it's another, as far as I'm concerned, absolute BS holiday. Totally made up by the powers that be to sell stuff, just like Halloween, another absolute ridiculous holiday. And so it just goes so far against my grain for anybody to tell me to do anything at a particular time. It's like all these artificial deadlines, right? You work for people and they say, hey, you're going to have it done by Christmas, right? Or you're going to have it done by Thanksgiving. Or you're going to have it done by my daughter's birthday. Or we'll have it done by, right? No, I won't have it done by then. Because I'm not putting up with any of your stupid artificial deadlines. That's why I may not be feeling romantic on February 14th, nor I may not be feeling generous. I may not be feeling like, and so, but I've let my wife know this, so she doesn't expect anything. And generally she's not surprised. She doesn't get anything. I was very nice to her all the way up until we got in that fight. And it was a stupid fight, it was over a shade and our coach, she put it, was like, it wasn't even worth talking about or discussing later, but man, I just came unglued. And I think I remembered earlier today, at some point today, I remembered kind of what I was so irked about, and then I forgot it again. But anyway, Valentine's Day, what a joke. Bunch of candy.
Yeah, that's why it's good. You got candy.
Yeah, exactly. Used to get those little hearts with little things in them.
Nah, if you don't get me chocolate, don't expect me to talk to you again.
It's true. Okay, well, I will try to remember that. Try to hold you to it, but I may be able to stop and get her something on the way home tonight. I think I will.
Cheaper the day after.
Yeah, it's much better. Much better the 15th. Okay, so just to make sure before we keep going here, I have Jesus Barreto is absent. Adair, I guess, is just not gonna ever come, and I have D'Angelo is absent. Okay. So last week you guys did the thing, right? You cut all the blocks to length. Did Pat set you up and show you with a stop?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, we
showed
did the
you how to
stop.
Stop and cut multiples. You cut the 16 in one length and the 6 at the other.
And then
you cut all-
he did his own circular saw safety.
Yeah.
Okay.
He told me that. He
Okay.
told me that. And he had you guys playing with the circular saw, and I thought that was great. And I'm really glad he let you guys all cut those out too. That was really cool. I mean, I would have let you cut them out, maybe. No, I was gonna let you cut them out for sure. Absolutely. gonna let
That's a
you cut 'em
lot
out.
for you to cut by yourself.
No, I was gonna let you cut them out. And cool, man, they're just ready to go. We'll be talking about that at some point. All right, let's go to a safety meeting. No, just cancel that. Okay, maybe you just want to go down there. How about that? Want to hit half the lights, please? Perfect. Yeah, and I'll tell all you guys in 111 tomorrow about the syllabus and all that too.
Are we meeting in the next door classroom for that, Ronnie?
Yeah, tomorrow we're meeting next door.
Okay.
Nice warm lecture. Okay, here we go. Week 5. Week 4 was with Pat. I don't know. Did Pat Zoom that with you guys? He did?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll find out where he's got that now. I'll get that recording up as a week 4 recording, but let's go ahead and do a safety meeting. Okay, I'll start it, and then we'll get some people to read. This one's on hand safety and injury prevention. Hand safety, click here for ad 3. I didn't even see that. Hand safety and injury prevention safety talk. We use our hands for virtually every task we do at work, and because of this fact, they are commonly injured on the job. Keeping our hands and fingers out of harm's way at work is critical, and I will be the first one to tell you that since I ran this finger through the table shop a long time ago. A serious injury to an individual's hands or fingers results in a huge negative impact on their ability to work and overall quality of life. While gloves are the most common form of PPE found in the workplace, hand injuries are still the second leading type of injury on the job. So hand injury statistics. Lou, how about you? We start off with this.
There are 110,000 lost time cases due to hand injuries annually. 1 million workers are treated in an ER for hand injuries annually. 70% of workers who experience a hand injury were not wearing gloves. Another 30% of victims had gloves on, but they were damaged or inadequate for the work task.
Wow. Okay, how about John Tapia? Three common
Types of hand injuries. Number 1, lacerations are the most common type of hand injuries. Lacerations are due to sharp objects or tools. Often inadequate gloves are used during an activity that involves a sharp tool. A glove with Kevlar is effective in protecting the hand against the cutting or slicing motion. A straight stab motion can still easily penetrate these gloves.
Wow.
Caution needs to be used when using any tool that can easily penetrate the skin.
Boy, tell me about it. How about somebody out there, Zach?
Crush injuries are usually due to employees placing their hands in the line of fire between two objects or in a rotating piece of equipment. Pinch points on equipment or tools also commonly lead to crush injuries. Fractures occur when there is a sudden blow to the bones in the fingers or hands. Motor vehicle accidents often cause fractures to the hands. Another common cause of fractures is an individual extending out their hands to catch themselves from a fall.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, how about, was that Zach that just read?
Yeah, that was.
Tyler, how about you?
Yep, safe work practices. Use tools to remove your hands from the line of fire when doing a work task that could result in injury to your hands or fingers. Using tools such as push sticks when using a table saw is an example that removes your hands from the line of fire. Avoid using fixed open blade knives. There are safety knives that limit the length of the blade exposed. They also have a safety feature that retracts the blade when pressure is let off the handle or a switch that controls the blade. Never put your hand in an area where you cannot see it.
That's a really good point. Okay.
Always wear the proper gloves for whatever work tasks you are doing. Understand the limitations of your gloves and what work tasks they are appropriate for. Never work on an energized piece of equipment. Lock and tag out the equipment to ensure there will not be unintentional startup when you are working on the equipment.
Okay, thank you very much. Ben, how about some discussion points?
What are some of the biggest hazards to our hands on site?
Okay, we'll go back and talk about that and then read the next paragraph, please.
Next time you are doing a simple task at home, such as setting the table for dinner, getting ready in the morning, or cleaning, try doing the task with one or two less fingers. It sounds like a silly exercise, but this can help put into perspective how hard it would be to complete tasks without some of our fingers.
Yeah, that's really a good point. So what are some of the biggest hazards to our hands on site?
Like construction.
Yeah, on site. And when they say when on site is mentioned, it's on site would be on the job site. So what are some of the biggest hazards on job site to our hands?
Saws.
Okay, what was that? What was that first one that just came over Zoom?
Saws.
Saws. Any saw is going to be a hazard to your hand because the blades are sharp.
Any cutting or pocket knife or anything that you would just commonly use to cut.
Any knife. So really, virtually, hazards would be any sharp tool could be a potential hazard, right? They're sharp. They could be cut. Using them, lying somewhere, projecting over a surface, someone else using them, dropping, falling. What other hazards? What other hazards to your hands are there?
Falling or getting your hands crushed under stuff.
Like they say, falling, put your hands out in front of you, skin your hands up, break something when you try to break your fall. Getting them in between things and getting them slammed or smashed by something. I mean, so many things, in between. There's so many in betweens. Other hazards for your hands on the job are splinters are a huge hazard. Splinters are
nail guns too, right?
nail guns are a hazard to your hand. Absolutely a hazard to your hand. And
What about the wrong tool? So using like a screwdriver as like a chisel.
that's a really good point. The wrong tool. Yeah. And using a dull tool can be very dangerous for your hands because you have to push harder and then slip and chisel and chisels can, yeah. So your hands, our hands, posable thumb and forefinger, all your fingers, posable thumb, makes us the absolute top of the physical chain, right? I mean, there are other living species that are stronger, better eyesight, can fly, can do all kinds of stuff better than us humans can, but there is nothing but humans that can do surgery and thread a needle and do all the things that we can do with these incredible hands. It's just phenomenal how much we use our hands. It's a great exercise to do. Try it sometime. Just tape two fingers together and pretend you lost them. And go do your day, make toast and stuff. See how it feels spreading your butter with two fingers missing on your hand. So we take a lot for granted. And for me, it's always good to stop and take a look at the things that we do take for granted, which gives me an appreciation for the things that I have, which is my manual dexterity and the fact that even though I ran that finger through the table saw, I still have use of it. So anything else about hands? Hands? No? Anybody else want to chime in about hands? Okay, so what's the next thing on our list here? Next thing is next thing we're going to do in week 5. Wow, week 5, man. Week 5. There's 16 weeks.
Sorry, I did have a question on the
Yes, please.
safety meeting.
Yep.
Louis read about it. It said something about 110,000 something, but I didn't understand the sentence.
Yeah.
Hand accidents or something, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
Lost time cases.
what was it?
Lost time cases.
What does that mean? Is that
So
What
hours
type? What
lost.
type?
hours lost?
Hours lost.
Can't
Oh,
work 'cause you're-
hours lost, right? Yeah, so that statistic was work hours lost
Gotcha. Okay.
due to hand injuries. I wasn't paying attention to those stats when I did that, but, okay. So here is what we're gonna do. We're gonna click on that, and it's basically gonna do nothing for us whatsoever until I go back. And then scroll down to instructor resources, and then we're just gonna whip through a PowerPoint from chapter 22, doors and interior trim. And then I think I have to tell this thing to go. Just stay right where you are. And then we'll probably take a break, and then I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna talk about casings, window and door trim. So talk all about window and door trim and the different kinds they are and how we deal with them. I'll do some illustrations on the board. And we won't be putting up anything today. So here we go. Doors and interior trim, which this is finished carpentry, right? Finished carpentry. What's finished carpentry again? The installation of doors, windows, standing and running trim. That's a blanket statement. There are more aspects to finished carpentry, but installing doors and interior trim is the finished carpenter's bread and butter. By the way, I'm going tomorrow to this unbelievable job up on Oak Creek Canyon up in Montecito. Unbelievable job. I'll take some pictures. And maybe I'll take a video. Maybe I'll take the video camera and video it again. But I'm going to look at there's a helix staircase that they want. It's not a true radius. It's a helix shape. He just described it to me on the phone. Josh, hi. So sorry, Josh. Got Josh. Oh, Josh, I already called. I already said you were here because you told me you were going to be here. So it's this helix staircase in wood, and the handrail's got to follow it. And so I would almost come out of retirement to do something like this from what he described on the phone. So I'm going to go there and look at it and just see how interested I really am in this thing. If I may want to head it up, I may try to get my old company to do it, but stuff like that. Why was I telling you about that? Because that's part of the finished carpenter's art. So in the stock in trade for finished carpenters is hanging doors and hanging windows and doing interior casings, casing the doors, casing the windows, running baseboard, running wainscoting, running crown molding, all the different interior and exterior moldings get to be finished carpentry. Handrails, hand staircases, balustrades, that's all part of the finished carpenter's art too. and I think probably curved, in this case, helix curved staircases. I can't wait to see what this is like, because I love a challenge. A good challenge. Okay, so let's just go through this PowerPoint. We're on half, right? So we're gonna go through the PowerPoint and see what the new, this is a brand new thing for me. This Goodhart Wilcox just came out with instructor resources just in this new 13th edition with these PowerPoint things. So the objectives of this chapter, of that chapter 22, which you all should be, if I haven't put it down there as homework for you, read chapter 22. It's a fairly long chapter. We're going to go through the PowerPoint on it right now. Read it. You don't need to read it all in one sitting, but read it. Chapter 22, we'll be doing a lot. And the objectives, the 2 pages of objectives here. So we're going to describe how door frames and casings are installed, list the steps for installing a freehung door, explain the difference between panel and flush type doors, list the steps for hanging a door, name different types of locks, and describe typical installation procedures. Compare pocket and bypass types of sliding doors. Outline the order in which window trim members should be applied. Cut, fit, and install crown molding in a rectangular room. Cut, fit, and nail baseboard trim. All good things, all part of this finished carpenter's art.
Hey, Rodney.
Yes,
What's the title of this chapter?
yeah, chapter 22 is doors and interior trim.
Okay, so it's
So,
21. and the
In
last
12, it's
is-
21. So let's say, it's probably not, hey, bear with me at home for just a minute. It's probably not very different. So there's 1 through 14. Find the in the table of contents.
Yeah. 609 in here.
So look at the table of contents. 1 through 14. So, okay, so that's what the first page is. A little different. Well, we'll see.
All right.
We'll see. We'll see. But I mean, the gist of everything is going to be, it will be exactly the same. All right. So interior door frames covers unfinished edges of a door opening. It does indeed. It provides support for the door and its hardware, and it supports trim pieces that are attached after installation. Those are called casings. Jambs are, is a frame consists of 2 side jambs and 1 head jamb. And typically that detail that you're seeing there, typically that's not what you're going to see in any jamb around here. That's a jamb you maybe will see on the East Coast. You maybe saw that 30, 40 years ago, but you don't see that now. That's not happening. And I will draw it for you after this, but I'm here to tell you that it will not continue up like that. It'll just have a rabbit, and the head will sit on the rabbit. It'll sit on the shoulder of this rabbit, and this leg, this jamb leg or side jamb, will just be cut off right there. And the people at home, it would be cut right there. You wouldn't have that headpiece sticking up. See, that's that head jamb, that is let into a groove. I'm sorry, that head jamb is let into a dado. The groove would go with the grain. All our jambs and all the jambs you're going to buy and all the jambs you're going to do these days, your head jam is going to set on a rabbit. Now, if you don't know the difference between a dado and a rabbit, keep coming to class, and you will learn. Okay. Jambs are not rabbited. Fuck you. They are rabbited. I'm sorry. I'll take that back. Can we clean that up a little bit? Jambs are not rabbited. Jambs are rabbited. There's no door sill. Backsides are usually curved and side jambs are dadoed to receive the head jamb. This is just not true. This really bugs me. Jambs are rabbited. Interior doors, definitely. There is no door sill on an interior door. That's absolutely correct. And the back sides of jam stock are generally curved. And those are curves. See that? Anybody want to venture a guess? Because I know none of you know. Why? What a dumbass I am. What's the reason?
Stop working?
Yeah.
Because when
Keep
you
it,
put
it relieves them from cupping, right? So if you can picture, jams are they can get relatively wider walls. I mean, generally they're 4 and 13/16, and I'll go over that again on the board. And that's wide enough at 4 and 13/16 where they would have a tendency to cup. The board could cup. The wider the board, the more tendency for the board to cup, to bend like that. And on a home screen, to bend like that would be cupping across its face. And then by relieving the back, makes it much less much less tendency to cup. Almost takes the it's not that it couldn't cup, it could, but it really you don't see much cupping. That's why it's done that way. But how can you go back? All right, so pre-hung door. There's a door frame with door already installed. Frame usually includes both sides of casing. Yeah, okay. If you specify yes, it can include both sides of casing. Machining for the lock installations has usually been completed. That's true if you order them that way, and the door may be pre-finished. Now you're going to see a pre-hung door done here by Jerry DeHogue, but he will build it here. He will hang the door to the jamb here, but he'll pre-hang it on the bench, and then he'll install a hole and nail it off, and then he'll bore, use the templates and bore and insert the lock set. And then usually we case it on the next class afterwards. The door may be pre-finished, it's true. There's a general procedure, slide frame opening, blah, blah, blah. That's with a pre-hung door. These are more standard doors that you're going to find in tracked sort of installations where the casing is going to be nailed off on one side. So that when you slip the door to the opening, it's drywall. The drywall's out there flush with the jamb. When you slip the door into the opening, the casing will index against the drywall. And then the other side, you'll just have the other side that isn't have the casing nailed off, right? So you can picture that. I can draw that too, where with the casing, if you look at that door behind us, you can picture the casing nailed to that jamb and stuck in the opening. The casing would go against the drywall, nail off. And by the way, the casing locks the jamb to the trimmer. So in a lot of tract houses, they don't even put nails in the jambs. They just nail off the casing. But the casing is nailed to the jamb, and the outside of the casing is nailed to the trimmer. So it locks it in all the way around. So yes, tract houses, those guys, bam, 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 they just nail to the casing and go. Especially with hollow core doors. So this is this is a good stuff to know, and you will be, most doors you hang will be pre-hung doors. If you get into this, I love to job hang doors, and I have job hung literally thousands of doors, and it's a real art, the job hanging door, and it's an art that Jerry DeHogue will show you. He's got it down too. When setting a door frame, do not fully drive any nails until all shims have been adjusted and jambs are straight and plumb. Okay, that's a good idea. Door casings. Okay, so this is a nice cutaway. So you see how the jambs are flush, or in this case, it shows it slightly proud. That looks like it is maybe just in a bit. This looks like it's slightly plowed, but regardless, if you have a back out on your casing, then you have to take into account when you case a door, you pretty much take into account that a lot of times your jamb is not flushing with your drywall like it should, because if framing's off, or your king stud's out, or your trimmer's out, or something has made that opening so it's not just perfect. So you have to, finish carpenters have to deal with it, and a back out on the casing really helps. But you can see the jambs are supposed to be flush. So a typical 3.5 inch stud, 5/8 drywall either side, right? That's 4 3/4, and your jamb stock will be 4 13/16. You get, they're always at 6. Your stock off the shelf jam stock will always be a 16th over. So when we used to have a 1/2 inch drywall, that's all anybody really did was 1/2 inch drywall. All your jam stock is 4 9/16. Now our jam stock is, you can still buy a 4 9/16 jam because people still unbelievably use 1/2 inch drywall, but most people use in a 3.5 inch or 2x4 wall, use 4 13/16 jam stock. And that will flush out with 2 pieces of 5/8 drywall and give you that 16th. Because more likely than not, you want, ideally you want the jam proud, slightly proud, just like right there. That jam is just looks like just slightly proud of the drywall. That's better than the jam, than the drywall slightly proud of the jam. It's better to have the jams a little fatter. That's why they add a 16th to the store-bought jams. So trim is applied to each side of the door frame that covers the space between the jam and the wall. It's usually installed with a reveal. There's the reveal. It says approximately 1/4. That's a big reveal. That's a huge reveal. The reveals I like. You can certainly go with 1/4. That's probably pretty close, but I like that reveal a lot, and that is 3/16. So splitting hairs, but 1/4 seems kind of big.
Rodney, is there a reason for the, what you said, that you prefer the jam to be,
Proud? Yeah.
versus the wall?
Yeah, because if the proud is, if the jam is recessed and the drywall is proud, then you're going to have a gap at the jam, right?
Mhm.
With if the jam is slightly proud, then you're going to make contact with your casing on wood, and then you can cut. And then if you've got some room behind the casing, that's a perfect place for caulk. Whereas if you look at this door, you can see big contact here is really important. Whereas here, this could get painter's caulk. if it needed to. There's a variety of things. I've had them out so far that we've had to score the drywall, slam the drywall with a hammer, and just basically let it into the drywall. But that's the thing that the finished carpenters come up with, because it's no openings are perfect. They just don't come out perfect. You just have to mess with every opening. Unfortunately, it seems to be that way. So it's usually solid reveal. There's the 1/4 inch reveal. Setback allows room for hinges and striker plates. I don't know what setbacks mean. Maybe that's the reveal. What do you mean by setback? Setback allows room for hinges. Oh, I guess just the reveal. Setback between the face of the jam and the casing is what they're talking about. So installing the casing, 2 pages here. Mark the reveal. Check the bottom end of each side of casing for square. Install either side casings or the head casing. Determine the length of the head casing. Make miter cuts using a miter box or power saw. So if these are just words for you, don't worry. They'll be illustrated at some point, and I'll be talking about it, showing them, and we'll be drawing them. So if you don't understand, I'm going to try to go through this relatively fast. I think you'll be elucidated after a while. So determine the length. They can make miter cuts using a miter box. Who uses a miter box? Do you know what a miter box even is?
Yeah.
Does anybody else besides Aaron know what a miter box is? Can you describe a miter box?
It's basically one that uses like a plastic box, so allows you to like guide with cuts and straight cuts and or just.
Yeah, no, and you guys can't see me at home describing this, but it's a box, 3-sided box. They used to be made out of birch or maple. They're about 12 to 18 inches long, and they have a guide for 90 and both 45s for a back saw. Back saw has usually fairly small teeth. They're usually about maybe 12 to 20 teeth per inch, or 8 to 12 teeth per inch. They have a hardened back, built up metal back, straight back, and you put your piece in there and it guides your back saw for your miter cut.
I actually have one of those.
A miter box? Nobody's got a miter box?
I do.
Miguel, you have one?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, do you use it?
Very rarely.
Yeah, exactly. How about never? Do you have a chop saw?
Yeah, I do now, yeah.
Okay, so are you gonna break out your miter box or are you gonna use your chop saw?
I'm gonna use my chop saw.
Of course you are. You would use your miter box if you don't have any power. For sure, it's great to have a miter box, but man, we got power now. And we don't even need power. We have batteries now. You have power, cordless miter boxes. So those are so. And then there's miter saw. There's back saws, miter saws. There's back saws, and they're locked in there. There's some pretty cool stuff. Matter of fact, at a point I might pull one up. So mark the reveal, take the button, determine the length, miter cuts using a power miter saw, align the head casing with the reveal and install it, mark the length of the side casings and place against the jamb, make miter cuts. You'll see this, I promise you, at some point, you'll see, we'll case and you'll see how I like to have it done. Trim miters with a block plane if they do not fit. Huh, really? Well, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. What's that new block plane I just bought? What do I do with it? Temporarily nail casing with finished nails, and then fully dry the nails and complete the nailing pattern. If not using a nail gun, use a nail set to sink nails below the surface. I'll tell you about that when we do a casing demo. And then avoid making hammer dents in finished lumber. Really, we call them elephant tracks, and they're not pretty, and nobody likes to see them, and they're almost impossible to get out with sandpaper or anything else. If you give it a good whack, and some soft. Most of the moldings we use are very soft. They're pines, finger jointed pines. Cut saw kerf and butt end of shim shingle. Cut saw kerf and butt end. I don't even know what that means. Start finish nail, then slip curved shim around nail. Oh, huh. Cut saw kerf and butt end of shim shingle. Oh, okay. Start finish nail, then slip curved shim around the nail. I don't even know what that means either. Drive nail flush with shim shingle, finish by using a nail set. Okay, fine. The book will get clear on that. Plinth block. So this is kind of cool. That opening there that doesn't have any trim on it was done with plinth blocks. It was done with a Craftsman style head trim and then plinth blocks down at the bottom. But a plinth block is a decorative corner trim used on door and window frames. It allows you to use a butt joints instead of mitered corners and maybe installed at floor level on door frames. Floor level as well as up at the head. Panel doors, stiles and rails with panels of plywood or solid stock. That's a panel door. Stiles and rails are usually made of solid materials. Some are veneer applied over a lumber core. So, in looking at this door, these guys here that run vertically, these members of the panel, what are they called?
Vertically stiles.
They're called stile, right? And then all these horizontal members are called rails. That's the top rail. This is called upper rail. This would be the lock. This is always called the lock rail. It's typically a little bit wider, and that's the bottom. Typical doors that you go buy off the shelf doors, panel doors like a C44 or would be a 4-panel. C22 would be 2-panel. They have 4 9/16 jambs. I'm sorry, 4 9/16. Yeah, 4 3/4 stiles, 4 3/4 head rail, 4 3/4 lock rail, 9-inch bottom rail. And then you can order a wider style version that comes at 5 1/4. Because some of your bigger escutcheons would hang over your rail, right? So that door, those doors there, those have just a regular, quick set knobs on them. They're 2 3/8 back set. So some of these things I'm telling you are real standards. For instance, back sets. That's the distance back from the edge of a door to the very center of the 2 1/8 inch knob hole. If it's a regular, ball and lever, so much about hardware. If it's a regular knob, right? Your standard traditional stuff, 2 3/4 to 2 3/8. 2 3/8 is the one you would mostly find in a residence. That's what these guys are. That's the back set. And what was I telling you about them? What was I telling you? What was it? Anybody help refresh me?
When you say back set, Rodney, what is a back set? Like,
The back set is how far back from the edge of the door is the center of that hole. So you see the center of that
okay,
lock?
okay, yeah.
So that's back set. So that back set and that back set are 2 3/8. That commercial door there, the door that we come in, the metal door, that back set's 2 3/4. Almost all of your commercial back sets are going to be 2 3/4 because they're going to be a little bigger levers. You want a little bit more room because you don't want the escutcheons hanging over if it's a style and rail door like these. But by the same token, you also don't want to be smashing your knuckles every time you close that up against the stop. You want to get that knob needs to be like picture not on this side, but on the other side, pulling it closed against the stop. If it's feels a little closer, if you got a fat stop, say you use a 3/4 stop on a 2 3/8 back set, the wide knob, you're going to be smashing your knuckles every time or until you figure it out. So, yeah, stiles and rails are almost always made out of solid lumber, but that's a panel door. That's a 6-panel door, but that's a typical stile and rail panel door. Just like the door, the cabinet we built and the cabinet next to it, that's a stile and rail door. That's not a raised panel, that's a recessed panel, that's stile and rail or panel door. So cabinet doors, the stile and or panel doors, they're just exactly the same as doors, house doors, interior doors, and some exterior doors. These doors are not panel doors. These are slab doors because they're not. They don't have a frame and panel. So that's a frame and panel door. And here's a molded door. They're made from wood fiber. The designs are formed by changing number, size, and shape of panels. Special effects are created by installing raised panels and moldings. Flush doors, that's what we have. I call them slab doors, consists of a wood frame with thin flat seats of material applied to both faces, made with either solid or hollow cores. Flush doors and hollow cores are widely used. Not around here, man. Not around here. Although I take it back, they are. If you go to Home Depot, you're going to find a billion of these colonist doors. These masonite doors that are hollow, they're very light. They have an interior frame, and then they have a masonite on both sides that are made to look like a panel door, but it's actually very thin, molded masonite. But that's a pretty good representation of a flush door. It has a rail, it has a bottom rail, and it has stiles. Top rail, bottom rail, usually has a lock rail. I've never seen them with just a lock block. I generally have a lock rail, a wider lock rail to bore through into. So there are some universal grades, but some door companies call them different things. But like this ND99 is a 3-panel door. I'm not sure if that's a Simpson designation, but if you were to go into Capital Hardware or Hayward's and say, yeah, I want to order, ND 106, they'd probably figure it out. They'd probably pull it up as a 4-panel. Now that looks like a 4-panel solid raised panel, but it's hard to tell. And then this 3-panel looks like a flat panel, recessed panel. And there are a couple of different types of panels, which again, I'm going to go over on the board with you. So interior door widths vary. They're basically, they go 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. That's not to say you can't get a 210, because you can. That's not to say you can't get a 22 or a 110 or a 18. You can. They are made. They're just not standard doors. Your standard doors are 20, 24, 26, 28, 30. Those are your standard doors. And those are all the standard doors. No other standard doors. 3.6 is not a standard door. 2.2 is not a standard door. 2.0, 2.4, 2.6, 2.8, 3.0. Those are your standard doors. 99% of the doors you hang will be one of those 5 width doors. And 6.8 will be 90%, if not 95% of the height of those doors. 80 inches, 6.8. From there, they'll go to a 7.0 door. And then from there, they go to 7.6 and 8.0s. So you may have 7.0 entry doors. You may have, depending on the house, you may have 8.0 doors throughout. I've hung a house that had 65 8.0 doors. It depends on the house, but that was a big, high-end, super high ceiling house. Typical houses, 6.8 is the height of the door, and your door thicknesses are 1 3/8 or 1 3/4, one or the other. They're not going to be anything but that. They're going to be 1 3/8 or 1 3/4. That's not to say that there aren't some massive doors that are 2 1/4. There are. I've hung them, exterior doors. There's probably some houses with interior doors at 2 1/4 too, but your standard doors are 1 3/8, typically interior, and 1 3/4 for exterior. Your windows are all 1 3/8. Some windows are 1 3/4 for the sash. Most codes do not specify minimum size. Grades and manufacturing requirements are listed in industry standards. And Window and Door Manufacturer Association. Almost all doors will have that WDMA sticker on it, and then Fir and Hemlock Door Association, that's another one of the associations. So a door installation, okay, so read plans to determine the hand and correct type. Never attempt to cut down a door to fit a smaller opening. That's bullshit. Handle doors carefully to avoid soiling. So handle door, definitely handle doors carefully, and not just to avoid soiling, to dinging them up and smacking them in, or doing some of their edges or hitting some with them, because you're carrying a fairly big piece. Never attempt to cut down a door to fit a smaller opening. Wrong.
Don't people do that?
There'll be all kinds of examples of existing, you'll come on existing openings where you have to replace the door and the jamb is okay. And you may have to cut a door down to fit the jamb. Just that simple, really. If you have an existing jamb, you need to make a door to fit the opening, you may have to cut it down. If you're doing pre-hungs, well, no, it's going to be pre-hung in a jamb for it. And if you're hanging doors, then you're same thing. But typically, if you're job hanging doors, you guys hear me okay at home? I wish you could see me.
Yep, we can hear you.
I wish you could see me gesticulating, but I don't want to lose this. Well,
We can see both.
you can?
Yeah, it's just one is prioritized.
Oh, cool. What was I saying? About the doors. Come on, come
You're
on, come
talking
on.
about cutting them down.
When you're like in job sites, what do you usually cut, hanging doors?
So where to go?
Big roll?
That's good. Very good. Very good. Okay. What was I going to tell you guys? Anyway, let's hand a door. Yeah, we're going to hand a door and then we're going to take a break. We're going to hand a door. So here's how you hand a door. Okay, no matter what that says, no matter what that says about handing, no matter what anybody tells you. about handing, there actually are a couple of things, hardware ones, where this handing is kind of reversed, but the general handing of a door, oh, I know what it is. I was going to tell you, is that when you look on a set of plans, a lot of plans have door schedules. So you don't really have to go, opening by opening to figure out what the doors are. The door schedule will number an opening. We'll show you the corresponding number on the door schedule and tell you if it's a 2.4, 2.0, 3.0, 6.8. And then it'll usually tell you the kinds of doors already that they are, right? And then we'll have a door schedule of what the doors are. So you'll know the sizes of the doors, but a door schedule won't tell you the handing of the doors. Handing the doors are always left or right-handed. That's a left hand open out, that's a right hand open out. And here's how you hand the door. Walk up to the door. Take your Zoom class with you. Always take Zoom.
Thank you.
Never forget. You walk up to a door, or you don't have to actually walk up to the door. You can just, I could have done this back there. You can do this and just picture it. These are butt hinges, right? That's how doors are hung. 95% of all the doors you're gonna hang or be involved with are gonna be hung with butt hinges. You might be involved with some sauce hinges or some Rixson hinges. You might, there are other kinds of hinges, but mostly they're gonna be butt hung. Virtually every door you come in contact with. So you're gonna put your butt to the butts. What kind of door is this?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. If the butt hinges were here, what kind of door would that be? What kind of door would that be?
Right.
Yeah, there you go. Now you know how to hand the door. Now you don't have to do that. You don't have to actually walk up to that. You can look at it and picture that, right? That's a right hand open out door. That's a left hand open out door, right? When you walk to the inside and the hinges are on the right, that's a left hand door. That's another way you could do it. But I like butt to the butts. It's not hard. It's not easy to forget. Same thing with this. This is a right hand open out. The hinges are always going to be on the left on the inside. But if you put your butt to the butts and use your arm as if it were the door, whatever arm you use that approximates the door is going to give you the handing of the door. And the handing is, you'd have to admit, pretty important, right? You don't want to walk into a bathroom and have the door open against your light switch, or any room and have it open against your light switch. Any room you walk into, you want to, and by the way, doors open into rooms. Generally, doors open into rooms. Doors usually don't open towards you when you're coming into a room. Doors open into rooms. And so light switches are always right there where you can get to them as soon as you walk in. Right? Doors open in, exterior doors open in too, so they can be weather stripped.
So the new building on campus, all of the classroom doors open out into the hallway. Do you have any idea why they would have done that?
Yeah, it's a panic thing.
Oh, really? Like if there's an active shooter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it has everything to do with, getting out fast.
Emergency, right?
Emergency, yeah.
It just seems so dangerous to open it out into a hallway. Like
Well,
if
that's why
somebody's
if you
coming
look at all the
down
doors here, same thing here, every
Yeah.
door here opens out. And if you walk along there, you'll see the sweep of the door is outlined in about a 2-inch white.
so people can
So
avoid it.
you know that that's the screen of the door. We don't have that here, but if you look at all the customers, you walk down John, you'll notice that.
Yeah, it just seems so dangerous because it's a tight hallway and then all the doors open
I-
out.
I've almost been hit by something.
In the
Yeah, yeah.
classroom, yeah.
Yeah.
Building.
Yeah, and I don't, I'm sure there's some logic in it, but generally in a house, in residences, not commercial or stores or things like that, but in residences, exterior doors open in,
Are you still here?
windows open out. And then with doors opening in, they close against weather stripping. Your hinge pins are on the inside. So when you have an exterior door to your house opening out, it's sold to you as an NRP. You have to get it as an NRP, or you should get it. I think you maybe have to get it as NRP. An NRP means non-removable pin, which means somebody has bored when the leaf of the hinge is opened, they bored through the middle and put in a set screw. So the pins lock. So see, these are removable pin butt hinges. So that's another thing. All your doors are going to be hung with removable pin butt hinges. So I can take my hammer or whatever. Get that out. Okay, so that means I can pull all 3 pins and pull the door off and do all kinds of work on it and just put it right back on and drop it on. That's we hang it with a template, which you'll see all that. But if this were the exterior of your house, and you didn't have the inside of that hinge through the barrel with a set screw, so you couldn't remove that pin. But the pins, you're in, man. Like that. Push you over the hammer and let yourself in. Take a break. It's 7:15. Come back at 7:30. And somebody remind me to start recording, please.
NRC?
PRCD. I have it. You probably know it as CRS. Now do you
I
know?
have it written down.
Now do you know?
somewhere.
ARCD means age-related cognitive decline. Sometimes known as can't remember stuff. I'm getting so bad that I've taken to carrying a notebook with me. But when I leave the living room, when I get to the kitchen, I can look down the notebook and realize why I've come here. So I'm not standing in the kitchen going, why did I come here? Go to the refrigerator, was there something?
Why do I have this notebook?
What's in this notebook? Am I eating chicken now? Okay, that was good, thank you. My dinner's done.
Was that
So we were. You mind? Last week. We stayed in this really killer RV park. I mean, just super high end. I mean, there were like $1 million rigs. There was no dirt, literally. It was gravel and concrete and pavers. It was all built out. They don't let any rigs under 10 years old. They screen their rigs. I mean, really nice looking rigs, really. And then they have all these active, 2 pools and spas and a restaurant, billiard tables, crafts. I mean, really, it's and it's an over 55 place, so there's no kids. I realized that I didn't think about it, but I thought I was talking to Cindy about it today. I was thinking, we didn't see any kids because where we're at now, Rancho Oso, which is 1,000 Trails Park, it's plenty of kids. I mean, last night at 9 o'clock, there was like shrieking children all over. Why didn't I hear any kids last week? Because there are no kids at this place. So we bought tickets. And I was thinking that because they do concerts there too. But this was at this other place called the West Winds RV Resort, which we stayed at 2 years ago when we visited our friends that winter there in Yuma. We live in North Carolina most of the time. And they have tribute bands. You guys know what tribute bands are? Well, I didn't know what tribute bands were till Yuma, till 2 years ago. The tribute band, if any of you don't know what a tribute band is, they're a band like the Doobie Brothers is who we saw. We bought tickets, $58, $56, $28 a ticket. I thought, okay,
Wait, to see the tribute band or to see the Doobie Brothers?
to see the tribute band.
What?
Uh-huh.
That's a lot.
I thought so too, but okay. So we go, and it's not sold out. It wasn't sold out because when we went there to buy tickets, I noticed that the fair amount was sold, but there was a whole lot of blocks. So we got front row all the way over this side section, right? So we'd be kind of looking that way at the stage. It's just the worst thing I maybe have ever seen in my life. I wanted it to be okay, and some of these guys, so it was 2 rhythm guitars, 2 lead guitars, bass guitar, drummer, and a female conga player, and a keyboardist. It was emulating Michael McDonald. It didn't sound anything like him. But and I know Michael McDonald personally. He's kind of not really a friend of mine, but I know him fairly well. So I was kind of looking forward to how they do his music, and it just sucked so bad. You know, and they were like, they started out like really good, saying, hey, you can get up and dance. I was, well, you know, we were just all set to dance. It was like, you dance to what? You know what I mean? It's like, how do you dance to this? It was so bad. And some of the guys had pretty decent chops, you know, some the guitarists were good, but they weren't together. Their syncopation was off. Their harmonies were like, I thought I was gonna barf. Yeah, it was bad, man. It was bad. And the interesting thing is the crowd didn't like them.
wow.
And it wasn't like they were booed. I mean, they were clapping stuff, but you could tell, like, people just like stone faced. It was a tough crowd too. But wow.
Have you seen the Doobies live?
No.
I saw them at Chumash like 10 years ago. They're good. They're still good.
They are.
Yeah,
They're
good.
tight, man.
Yeah.
They have some just classically forever great songs.
For sure.
And Michael McDonald's voice is just, it's super unique, you know, he has that voice. So, yeah, that was kind of a highlight, not really a highlight. Freddie's was though. I'm in an anecdotal mood right now. Freddie's. Who knows about Freddie's? All right, so I better probably cut this out of my recording. I better stop recording. No, I'm just kidding. Wasn't that bad. So Freddie's. Okay, so my wife and I are not into fast food. My wife is not into fast food at all. But I like fast food occasionally, especially when I'm on the road. It's nice to get fast food. And then tonight, when I was coming here, I was thinking where I just get something, but I went to LCT, which is not really fast food, but it's about as good a fast food as you can get. But there's a place called Freddie's. Anybody know about it? Freddie's? F-R-E-D-D-Y. Yes, Freddie's. Freddie was a guy that, I think he was born in Texas, but his first store was in Wichita, Kansas. There are now, I think he's got like 40 of them, or 50 of them. They're franchised, so not family. It's a family-owned business, but it's franchise. It's Freddie's Steak Burgers and Custard. Freddie's Steak Burgers and Frozen Custard. So their soft serve, they call frozen custard, and it's over the top good. And they sell it hand packed too, and it's over the top, like indescribably good. And they make these steak burgers, right? They're not like a regular hamburger. They look different and they taste different. And they do a California type, and they have a jalapeno fry sauce. I mean, they make the McDonald's look so bad, and any of those other places, they make them look bad. So whenever we travel, whenever we're in Kansas or her folks, you know, I make it a point to go to Freddie's as often as possible, as often as my wife will allow me to. And then one has come up in Thousand Oaks. I've stopped at that one. I didn't have that good experience there, but the one in Yuma, there's 3 in Yuma, but the one we went to was really good. Oh man, it was good. I just been waiting for Freddie's for a long time. We got Freddie's and it was just great. And so the next night, we were coming from somewhere. We had dinner at a Mexican restaurant, a really good Mexican restaurant, and we were heading back. And I said, let's go to Freddie's and I'll buy you guys custard. You know, get a small soft serve. They're really good. So that's what I went in there. And nobody wanted it, right? I said, well, we'll stop because I'm going to get one. But when we stopped, they said everybody wanted one. When we stopped, it was like, oh yeah, get me this, get me that. Get that. So I went in there to get 3 mini cups, mostly chocolate and vanilla, half and half. And then Rick has to chime in, but he wants this mint Oreo concrete, they call it. It's a blended thing. Mint Oreo concrete. Okay, fine. So I go in there. There's nobody in there. There may be one person sitting down, maybe 2 people. Nobody at the counter. They got a fair amount happening at the drive-through. I can see. They're kind of they look a little busy, but there's a very friendly female waiting for me, and so I give her my order. I want the 4 cups, chocolate, vanilla, minis, not a hard order, right? And the 1 mint chocolate thing. 25 minutes later. Yeah, this is fast food. 4 cups of soft serve. 25 minutes later, I'm pretty much there, right? I mean, I'm like real close. I can feel myself getting closer and closer. And then they call, my number's 112. They call 114. The people that I saw walk in well after I made my order, they get their order. And then I lost it. I just lost my shit. And I was like, then she comes up with this our order, but it's not our order. It's wrong. It's wrong. So it's like I'm losing it, and I'm heading up there, right? And then it's like, then she says 112, and I go 112. That ain't it. That's not what I ordered. I want my money back. So I want my money back. I want a refund right now. So the manager is a very large guy with sleeves, full sleeves. The guy is tattooed like you've never seen. He's really big. He's really hulking, and he's got this mask on, right? And I'm saying this, I want the refund to this, female. It wasn't the one that took my order. She was another girl. And it wasn't being mean to her. I was just irritated as heck. And it wasn't being unkind. I said, I want a refund. I want it now. And she goes, well, let me get my manager. Okay. And so then I get the manager. Kenny, as it turns out, is his name. And the first thing Kenny says to me is that you need to calm down. I said, what did you say to me, Kenny? I didn't know his name was Kenny. So what did you say to me? Did you just tell me? Did you just tell me I need to calm down? Dude, I was like, I was like this far from launching myself over that counter and getting my hands around that fat neck. And he goes, I misspoke. And he just starts backpedaling and apologizing. I said, I spoke too soon. I shouldn't have said that. Two things kicked in for him. One was his self-preservation. He probably got that even though he was a big guy, I was one unholy pissed off human being that could have done anything. And I probably would have pulled out my knife and stabbed him several times in the neck really hard and really fast. But and then I think his corporate training kicked in. Because he just, quick as a wink, he just starts signing cards, gives me 4 free meals, combo meals. And then he goes, and please take this. And I go, no, I just want my money back. He goes, take it in. I go, no, I'll take 2 quarts of soft serve of hand pack then. He goes, okay, brings me over the table. So we leave there, and Rick is all PO because he didn't get his chocolate mint concrete. Just shut up. I'm so upset, but I got 4 free meals, and I got the 2 pints, the 2 quarts. So not bad.
That was a win.
And so, yes, but I just felt bad, like I behaved badly. So I gave him 5 stars. I went to the review. I gave him 5-star review, and then I wrote a letter to saying, what this guy had done. And what I realized in writing it out is that I really appreciate the way he handled the situation and the way he handled himself. But more than anything, I appreciated the way he handled me. Because it was touch and go. I swear to God, it could have gone, literally, I could have jumped over that counter. I saw myself leaping over the counter. I saw my hands around that fat neck. But I didn't do it. Thank God. Yeah, Mr. Roth's not here tonight because he's in the Yuma City jail. So I came back. We came back 2 nights later and got our meals because I probably wasn't going to use them, and to apologize to Kenny. And Kenny wasn't there, so I talked to everybody that worked there and said, be sure and tell Kenny that a-hole that was here 2 nights ago came in to apologize for the way I acted, because I could have been better. But the guy, God, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
He could have had a real bad situation because I was so irate, and I probably wouldn't have done anything physical, but I would have yelled and screamed and kicked. I would have definitely. I would have made a scene if he'd have taken it. If he'd have gotten back in my face when I said, what'd you say? If he hadn't diffused it right then and there, I don't know what would happen. But I just, after I got back and, after the adrenaline got out of my system, I realized that guy just really did me a big favor besides the 4 free meals, which was great. And the hand pack, because we really enjoyed the heck out of that, was he really did me a favor. And he really, by diffusing the situation. And so he knows by now, because I made it very clear 2 nights later how much I appreciated him.
All over some ice cream.
4 small little saucers. 25 minutes later. Hey, that happened. I know it's probably me. I don't know if I've ever told you guys this, but something that I pretty much live by. And the reason why I felt like I needed to apologize is that if I encounter more than 2 assholes in any given day, I might want to look at that I'm probably the asshole. And that I find to be true. It's probably me. Isolated incidents are one thing, but
Note to self, don't get in between Rodney and some ice cream.
don't make me wait 25 minutes and put those other people in front of me. You know what I mean? It's like,
I think you're wrong.
yeah, the 25 minutes, I mean, I could jump over there, but see, I knew something weird was happening because he was running around, Kenny, taking tops off machines and doing stuff. And if you look at the 2 giant things that serve the ice cream, the chocolate and the vanilla, there was this 6-inch river of chocolate and a river of vanilla. And I kept looking and thinking, that shouldn't be there. So I think they had trouble with the machines too, and they had a bunch of trouble. and then I came along and they really had trouble. And there's trouble with a capital T. So we all know how to hand doors now. Butt to the butts. Use your hand. Okay, now when you fit a door, so this is going to be, maybe if you'll remember this, you might get a kick out of that, because just watch Jerry, or be here to watch Jerry. Yes.
Are you gonna put
Oh yeah, thank you. Be here to watch Jerry, because Jerry DeHogue is a master tool carpenter. The guy that's doing the trim work on that $160 million job on Woodley Road. But he'll hang a door for us. And you'll see how to fit a door. He's really good and really fun guy to watch. When he was here last, it was like 3 shots of fireball to the wind. He seems to get better. I don't know, the guys. He's good. He's really, and he's tooled like you can't believe. So he'll come. I got to go see him. I'll get him set up for a few weeks. I'll give you plenty of notice to make sure you're here. But he'll show you his unbelievable setup. The guy is tooled like you cannot believe, and then he'll set up an air force, and I'll pull one of these doors out of the opening, and I'll have him with a new jam, maybe rehang one of these doors, or I'll get him a new door. I think I've hung most of those a couple times. And he'll job hang the door for us. So doors not pre-hung must be fitted to a frame. Check measurements of door and door opening. Good idea. Trim door to fit opening. I thought it told us not to do that. I think it's telling us not to do that for pre-hungs. Is what that was saying when I took issue with that. Small amount of material can be removed by planing. So planing as a door is tricky. But doors must be planed. And they must be planed if you're fitting them, because if nothing else, book doors will not have a bevel. And doors should be planed and have bevels both on the hinge side. They need a hinge bevel, which they should have a 2-degree hinge bevel, which will virtually eliminate hinge bind, which I won't tell you about yet. Or you'll hear about that as we get into doors. But all doors need a bevel on their latch side, 5-degree bevel, about. 5 degrees is a good degree for a bevel. All doors need to be beveled on their latch side. And I'll show you the mechanics and the physics of that on the board to illustrate it, but just suffice to say that by putting a bevel on it, as the door closes, you get that part of the door out of the way that would hit the jamb and allow you to have a nice clean 1/8 inch reveal. Otherwise, you had a square door, you won't be using an 1/8" reveal. You'd probably have a 1/4" reveal, 5/16". So that's, the bevel is very important. So virtually all doors are beveled, although you'll see some cheapo pre-hung doors in our bevel. But here's our clearances. Here's what they want. They want 3/32 on the lock side. Okay. I would say 4/32 would be just fine, but that's okay. A 1/16 on the inside. Okay. A 1/16 at the top, 5/8 at the bottom. Increase the bottom clearance of the doors swing as across heavy carpeting. I'm going to show you how to cut a door after doors are hung and you do carpet and the doors have to come off and they can't come to do the carpet, then they can't go back on because the carpet's too high. So you can't really gauge. And so how to measure and how to cut a door, I'm going to show you that. Probably not tonight, but 36 and 38 is a very good number for a center of knob bore. 5/8 clearance means absolutely nothing. Depends on your floor. If that's finished floor, right, then 5/8 is okay. I like it tighter personally. If it's a nice level floor, I'd rather have it down there more like 3/8 myself. But 5/8, I wouldn't make it any bigger than 5/8 if that's a finished floor. That 7 and 11 on your hinges right there, that 11 and 7. 7 and 11 is very standard for hinges. 7 down from the top and 11 up from the bottom. And most of the older templates that we used to use, the adjustable door templates that Milwaukee first came out with, and then Stanley bought them, and then Bosch bought them. So now they're a Bosch, the metal ones that you can mix and match, and you put. They come in a. I think we have them. I think we have a adjustable door hinge template jig, but they you can set them for 7-11. You can also set them for 5 and 10 too. So 7-11 is standard, but it's not the only standard.
Is there a standard for the middle hinge?
No, right in the middle. Dead middle. Dead middle between the hinges. And I was curious as to what these were. These are hung with Jerry's templates for 7-11. 6/8 door, yeah. That's pretty standard, but it's not. They're not always that way. You have options in your adjustable templates. 5 and 10 is an option too. I don't know. 16th is okay. I like an 1/8 inch or a proud 1/8 all the way around the door. In that case, even up to a quarter, but a quarter is pretty big. So that's probably a fat 1/8. And that's a door you can put paint on. See, the 16th, you could get in trouble. Yeah. You can get in trouble because paint's pretty thin, but it is a couple of mils. You get a couple of layers of paint on there and get 1 or 2 mils. You get some heavy paint on the top of your door. You get some paint on your jamb. Now you've got 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 mils, and then you get a little bit of swelling on your door, and then your door could I've seen way too many doors not close and have to be plain because it's swollen. So I'd much rather have a nice, clean, even reveal and a fat 1/8 that you don't ever have to play around with again. Millwork plants furnish pre-fitted doors. Yes, they do. Machine to size, specify the lock edge beveled, corner slightly rounded. Yes, they do that. Doors can also be furnished with gaines cut for hinges and holes bored for lock installation. Typically, when I order pre-hung doors, I order them done. I order them hung in a jamb. I specify the jamb, the kind of jamb, paint grade or stain grade. I specify the stock. I specify obviously the kind of door. I specify the hinges. I also specify square corner hinges. If you notice, we are hung with square corner butts. There are round corner butts. Routers, on the router template, because virtually unless you're hand cutting your hinge gains, then hinge gains, hinge mortises, same thing. If you're cutting with a router and a router template, the router is going to leave you a rounded corner. And the big door machines, the pre-hung doors, and like Capital has, they have a big they have a bigger router cutter, and it leaves a 5/8 radius. So that's a much bigger, really kind of ugly hinge, if you ask me. And then for us, with our 1/2 inch straight bits that we do our routing with, our hinge templates, that leaves a 1/2 inch radius. So you can buy round corner butts. They're standard off the shelf, round corner, or you can buy square corner butts. That means you will route it with a round corner, and you will take either a chisel and go chit chit in each one, or a spring-loaded corner chisel, which is what we'll use and what Jerry uses. Just whack, whack, and make the round corners be square. And I prefer what a square corner looks like. I do not like the round corner. It just makes it look cheap and pre-hung and tracty to me. Square corner. So square corner butts are what's happening. So you, but I would specify square corner butts, the size of the butts, that is 3.5, 3.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4x4, all the way up to 6x6, loose pin, whether it's an NPR, how it's handed, which way, which in the case of the swing, you tell them it's a left or right hand. Whether it opens into a room or out of a room is not really all that important. Unless it's an exterior door, what the size of the stops are, with the jam, all that stuff. The bore, 2 3/8, 2 1/8 bore, 2 3/8 back set, or just say standard bore. They'll bore it at 36 inches from the bottom of the door. They'll bore a 2 1/8 inch hole and a 2 3/8 back set. If you tell them standard, or you can tell them 2 3/4 inch back set. You can tell them it's for Baldwin, and they'll bore you a 5/8 hole, not a 2 1/8 inch hole, because Baldwin, there's a lot of kinds of hardware. Lots. And there's a range of hardware. There's bottom end, which these things are right here, pretty much bottom end. And then you get into some of the more medium ends like Schlage, and then the higher mediums like MTech, and then you get into the higher ends, Baldwin's, Valley Colombo, Newport Brass. There's just a bunch of them that are way higher end. Rocky Mountain Brass. An entry set in Rocky Mountain Brass, you can spend $2,000. You can spend $3,000, $4,000 for an entry handle set in sandcast bronze, not brass, but bronze, Rocky Mountain bronze. Really, really cool stuff. But I was telling this. There's a lot of kinds of hardware, and virtually all of your lower end and medium end into the lower high ends are going to have a 2 1/8 inch bore, because that's the standard bore. 2 1/8 inch diameter hole, 2 3/8 or 2 3/4 back set. And then in the edge of the door, you're going to have a 3/4, 7/8 or 1 inch bore. Those are the standard latch bores. And they're right in the center of that hole. So you specify that, unless it's a Baldwin, not Images. Baldwin Images is their lesser quality, a little bit lesser, a little less expensive. They go into 2 1/8 inch bore, but the Baldwin, what the line is there? It's their standard line of Baldwin. Takes a 5/8 bore. So you don't want to bore 2 1/8, bad. You're going to bore 5/8, and then they have very small escutcheons too. So Baldwin's it's a whole different animal. So you always want to know the kind of hardware you're using before you order a board. But have your doors machined. Do not order them unboard if you can help it. Everything you can get the factory to do, you've just saved yourself a lot of time and money. I've done a lot on the site. I don't know why people, and a lot of it is retros. You got an opening and put another door in, or there are a variety of reasons to have doors job hung. It happened too fast. Like if you've got a bullnose, we haven't talked about bullnose. We'll be able to get to bullnose here. We will. Okay, we'll get to bullnose. So here's a hinge mortising template. Now I've never seen one quite like this. This is an individual template. They are usually ganged together, all three. Even if it's a 2-hole door, you're still ganged together with all three to give you the whole cha-cha, unless you're using a templaco, which are plywood door templates, and you can just buy those as a 3.5, 2-hole template for a 6/8 door, 3-hole template for a 6/8 door, Typically, you buy a 3-hole template and just don't use the middle one. You can buy it for 7-0 doors, you can buy it from 8-0 doors, you can buy it for 4-hole templates, for 4x4. You can buy them for virtually any combo, and they're plywood. And if you treat them right, they'll give you years and years of service, and they're a lot cheaper. But this is one that would probably come as a set of 3. If the door's not pre-hung, these must be cut. You must cut the hinge mortises. Hinge templates can be adjusted for different door heights and hinge sizes. So the templates are all adjustable. For 1 3/8 and 1 3/4 doors, they're adjustable for 3.5. They still usually start at 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5. That's about as high as they go. I don't think they go to 5x5. But you can get 5x5 and 6x6 hinges. There are bigger hinges, but your standard hinges are going to be 3.5, 3.5. Bigger doors, exterior doors, 1 3/4 doors, you're going to want to hang those with a 4x4 hinge. And then the heavier doors, oak doors or birch doors and more solid doors, you might want to do a 4.5, 4.5. You might want to do 3 pair. And when you start getting to 7-0 doors, you want to do 2 pairs. And there are standards when you start thinking about, well, how many hinges am I going to need for the door? There's easy to find out information on that. Make the cut to the router, attach the template to the door jamb, cut the matching mortises. So,
Sorry, Rodney. Right now that you were saying the size of the hinges, does that mean like extended when they're extended? That's the 4.5.
no, but what was I going to do? I'm going to answer that question for you in just a second. As soon as I try to figure out why I stopped that.
Oh, sorry.
I stopped to show you something. Something about doors. I was going to illustrate something about doors. What were we talking about? We were talking about what aspect of the doors we were talking about? Bella, we were talking about hinges.
Springs is on the outside, but plastic.
Template? The templates. We were talking about templates. Hinge templates.
Maybe you read the last point on the.
Yeah, that'll help. But let me answer your question. What was your question?
How the dimensions of the hinges that you were saying?
Yeah, so it's the 4x4 is, yes, it's the height of the hinge, and then it's the hinge open. So yes, it's the leaf open. It's not half a hinge.
Okay.
That hinge closed is going to be 2x4.
Okay.
And then that's a good thing. Let's go just right back to that. Make the cut to the router, attach the template. Okay. That's what I was gonna do. Okay. So the beauty. So the beauty of the door templates is if you can imagine, cutting 3 mortises, and a mortise is where you cut out material from something to put something else in it. Typically, hardware is mortised into the wood of a door, window, or jamb, or something, cabinet. So these mortises these hinges so you can't see these, but they're flush, right? And they're flush on the door. They're flush because the wood has been routed out, corners have been squared out, and the hinges are pushed in there, nice dead flush. So the process is you have your door on a door buck. You put your template on, your Templaco template, and you flush it, and there's a button on top that approximates your reveal. But you flush your template with a door, and you know which side your pins are on. You have these little indexers that index against the door that give you the nice gain, this reveal right here on the edge of the door, so you don't see the hinge, right? Then it's removable nails, you tap it down. And you've already set up and practiced, you've done a couple of a test piece, so it works, and then you route out. Jerry's gonna show you all this. You route out your mortise, right? So they're all routed out. You pop your template, you walk over to your door, the same index is against the jamb. It goes up now, the button hits the jamb, right? You set it, when you did this, you set it with the template flush and the button above. Now your button hits the jamb. That button is your reveal. If you flush the template, if you cut the same mortises in the jamb that you did in the door and you flushed it, well, your door can't go in there flush, it's got to reveal. So that's what the button's about. So then you nail that on with the removable nails. You cut all three of those mortises, you take the template off, you install your hinges, you pull the pin, install the two leaves of the hinges, install one leaf on your jamb, install one leaf on your door, take your door, and you slip those, when you pull the pin out, right, you've got those knuckles, you slide them together, drop the pin in. I mean, you have very little tolerance. You can see that, right? You got to make these like 3 or 4 knuckles on 3 hinges be at the exact same spot. So all 3 places, they go in just like that, right? You don't want to be measuring. You want to use a template. You can do it measuring, but you want to use a template, and then it'll be perfect every time, and you can do it speedily and economically and efficiently. Which is what speedily means. Speediolite. Cut the mortises. All right, so this is, remember I told you about the big radiuses? That's a factory hinge. So that hinge goes on a door that's made in a factory that's pretty big, and they're pumping out a bunch of doors. And that's they're using a 5/8 bit to cut that. That's how big it is. And to me, that's a junky looking hinge. I don't care for it at all. And so this, what do we got here? So 2 leaves connected by a pin, possible to drive pins out, remove door, security hinges, right? That's an NPR. So place the hinge in the game, drive the first screw slightly. Check it out. You know what? I'm not gonna go through this. We're gonna see this in the flesh. We're gonna see this in the flesh. Oh, I can go back. So hang door, check clearance, plane the doors, adjust the depth, make the hinge planes. No. And yes, you can make minor adjustments with cardboard shims on your hinges. It's pretty cool. And actually, Jerry doesn't really talk about that. So when Jerry does his thing, he never talks about that. But I'm going to tell you about that right now. I'll tell you about that right now. This is something, just a little tidbit for you that you won't get out of anybody's book, although I'm really surprised they mentioned it. So you can take a door. Now let's look at this door. We're playing around with a door and an opening. And you don't like the reveals, and the reveals aren't even, and it's kind of going like this, right? It's kind of going downhill a little bit. It's maybe trying to pinch there, and you got a bigger reveal here. I hate that when there's a big reveal here, right? And it's kind of open this way. So obviously this is what's happening in the jam, and it's already nailed off. Well, you can move your door this way or this way. You can move it this way, you can move it this way, you can move it that way, you can move it that way, or you can move it. You could do that by shimming behind the hinges. You take the box that your hinges came in, cardboard box, and cut. You can actually buy these. Cut about 1/4 inch wide by however long your hinge is, maybe slightly shorter, right? pieces of cardboard. The cardboard, not thick box cardboard, but cardboard like the hinges come in, the boxes that the hinges come in. Then cardboard. You take off your hinge, and then by either shimming to the outside of the hinge, the outside of the gem. So picture the hinge being off and me putting a piece of cardboard on this side of the hinge, the side that's closest to the jam. By doing that, what I've done is I've taken and I pushed the knuckle this way, which means I pushed the door that way. If I pop the hinge and I put the shim against the gain of the mortise on this stop side of the hinge, I push the knuckle that way and I've increased this reveal. And you can do that very subtly and completely tune up a door if it's doable. If it's doable, and if your door's really whack and you can't do it. But if it's doable, if it's just taking a little tweaking, and typically you'll see that. You'll see a door slightly sag, right? This will open up, this will open up, this will tighten up. And by simply doing that to this hinge, and you would be shimming behind that side of the hinge, which would push the knuckle that way. Now you get these guys hanging these pre-hung doors, they're a little bit out of whack. They'll come along with a big crescent wrench, and they'll put the crescent wrench on it, and they'll go, and they'll just bend the hinge. Let's go, or give it a smack with a single jack, and actually bend the hinge, and do the same thing in either direction. But I prefer doing it with shims. That's a carpenter's trick that I don't see in any books.
Normally you would do that on either the top one or the bottom hinge, you wouldn't do in the middle one if there's no.
Depends on the, if you need to move the whole thing over, I would do it in each hinge.
Oh,
So
okay,
yes,
right.
and you may do, like, depending on how much you move it over, you may do 2 pieces of cardboard in your bottom hinge and maybe 1 in the next 2. It just, you get a feel for how much
Right, okay.
it's gonna move. You want to take a break and then come back, or do you want to press forward for 15 or 20 minutes and go home?
Yes.
The ladder? The ladder okay with you guys at home?
Yeah, that works.
Sounds good.
Oh, wait, you don't have to go home. You're already home. Okay, good. Let's do that. Let's do exactly that. Okay, minor adjustments can be made with cardboard shims, you're right. Door stops, oh man. I'm not going to give you too much about, I'm going to try to get moving a little bit faster on these doors because I know I've said this 50 times tonight. Jerry DeHogue, he wants to do it. He does it for us every semester. It's been catch as catch can the last few years. Everybody knows why. So I have a really good video on YouTube of him doing it. It's a pretty good video, but it's much better to see him do it in the flesh. So we're going to get him here and he's going to do this for us, for our class. And we're going to dig. You're going to dig them. Now I like this. This is a typical tubular lock set. There's a cylindrical lock set. I'm not sure. Okay, cylindrical lock set, just the okay, and a tubular lock set. They're very similar and very easy. A unit lock set. I venture to say you'll never see one of those. A mortise lock set, I venture to say you won't be messing with those until you get pretty good. I bought the tool for my full mortise boring jig that does entry sets, that does the mortises in the door for that lock set. It cuts a mortise anywhere from 3/4, 7/8, 1 inch wide, 6 inches tall, 4 inches deep, and it cuts it in about 15 seconds. It's the coolest tool you can imagine. Did I tell you this about Jim Cunningham about his job? So I met Jim Cunningham about 50 years ago, 40 some odd years ago, not quite 50. And he had a job doing a bank in Ventura, and he had 35 doors to do. And I bought that tool, and I did all 35 doors. It was just great. I made good money. I paid for the tool, and Jim was happy. We started a long-term relationship. Deadbolts are extra locks that provide more security. So everybody knows what a deadbolt is, right? It's a longer cylinder. It's a longer, not cylinder. It's a longer bolt. It goes into the jam a little further. A good deadbolt, like at least a Schlage, or virtually in a deadbolt, is going to have a security plate. It's going to be a case hardened steel about an 1/8 inch thick, and long screws that go in besides the dust bucket. And really good hardware has dust buckets, so that when you look at the side of the jam that the strike is on, you don't just look at a hole or painted or raw wood. They've mortised it out and put it in a plastic or a metal bucket. You just see a clean lined hole. It's all part of it. And same thing with a deadbolt. A lot of people just put deadbolts in and don't put in the security stuff. I like to take the time to do the security stuff. It takes a lot more time and to be a lot more careful. But you know, you get a door that'll maybe withstand the first 2 kicks. And then what do you know about locks?
Keep honest people honest.
That's all there is about. That's all you need to know about. A lock will keep an honest person out of your house. It will not keep a burglar out of your house. A lock is a burglar's stock in trade. That's what burglars do. They defeat your locks. So having locks in your house is like, okay, that's great. We won't break in. But anybody else can. So a lock isn't going to provide you any security whatsoever. It just means that somebody that goes to get in your house can't get in right away. And if they're a burglar, if you have glass in your house, they're in. So an alarm system, if you're worried about people breaking into your house, get an alarm system. I'm not saying don't lock your house. I mean, because they're going to get it anyway.
Put the good stuff outside.
The locks will not keep you safe. They just make you feel safer. So this is good. There's a cylinder lock set, the stuff that goes with it. The cylinder is scutcheon, right? Key knob. This is a keyed. So, and of the kinds of hardware, we're talking about interior hardware. There's basically just a few kinds. There's passage. That's what I think those are. They're passage, like, you know, in bedrooms, most bedrooms, stuff like that. Right? It doesn't need any kind of a latching or locking, rather, not latching, but locking. And there's privacy. Privacy are for your bathrooms or bedrooms you'd like to have a lock. On one side, you can push the button, but privacies always have a failsafe. They have a hole and they provide you with a little key that someone from the other side can press that and get into a privacy. And that's because people can pass out and things can happen to people in bathrooms, and the doors are locked and the people that need to get to them can't get to them. So that's what privacy always has a way to get it. Then there are key locks. They're usually on exterior doors. And key locks, you know, take a key, have a cylinder. They're a little more secure than a privacy. And then there's deadbolts, which are key. And they give you. So typically, what I recommend someone have, they really are security conscious, is a passage and a deadbolt on an exterior door, rather than just a key lock. It just gives you a deadbolt, gives you way more. I mean, it's really a lot harder to get in.
I never really thought of this until now. When I was a kid in my parents' house, the main door used to be a normal door. However, the knob would be in the center of the door, like right here. And of course, the mechanism would get all the way
Yeah.
to the end. But I've never seen that.
Yeah, you see those occasionally. They're rare, but yeah, it's an architectural detail.
And,
Seen those.
and are they still built, or
Yeah, somebody probably you could probably still get that for.
do you need to bore like a hole all the way? Wow.
Yeah, either that or you make the door and you give yourself a channel before you put the face on the door, right? If it's a slab or something like that. But yeah, you have to bore that far. You gotta It's an actual physical mechanical linkage that when you turn the knob, it retracts.
Wow, okay.
Ben, where was that?
Mexico?
Yeah, I think I've seen them in Mexico too. I've seen more than one of those here, and I think I might have seen them in Mexico too. But escutcheons, you know, cover all this stuff on the outside of your door. There's strike plate, common. This is a pretty common. And that's the body of a cylinder. I think both of those are the bodies look like this. This is a Schlag. Okay, so this is laying out, doing hardware, peepholes, you know, that's just door viewer, bore a hole. Pocket doors, ooh, pocket doors. Pocket doors are kind of fun. Typical pocket door, like doors are a whole thing. I mean, you can make a career out of doors. There's a lot to doors. There's lots of kinds of doors, and pocket doors are kind of fun. So the rough openings for doors are pretty standard. Interior doors. Now, your exterior doors are usually factory doors. People are using a lot of factory doors, and they will have a factory call out for the RO, which means the rough opening. And this typical interior door, your RO is the call out plus 2. Call out plus 2 inches. So if it's a 2-4 door, that's 28 inches. Your rough opening width should be 30 inches. If it's a 2-4, if it's a 2-6 door, your rough opening should be what?
Wait.
Should be 32 inches. So 2 inches over on the rough. Your typical header height is 82 inches throughout for 6-8 doors. I like 84 on the exteriors because you can always pad down, but it's really hard to opening up. So I could usually go 84, and sometimes I'll do 84 interiors, depends on what the finished floors are. Always want to take that into account. But why was I telling you this? Oh, pocket doors. Yeah, pocket doors. And a pocket door is the opening is the call out times 2 plus 2. So if it's a 2-4 pocket, it's 2 2-4s. So that's 28 twice is 56 plus 2 inches. And that's for your jams and then there are more than one kind of pocket frame. The best pocket frames are Johnson's, the brand Johnson. The hardware, you buy the hardware, you make your own frame. That is the best. And you can get Johnson's in a pre-made. If you're having anybody pre-hang or doing pre-hung doors for you, and you have pre-hung pocket frames, try to get them to use a Johnson hardware. It's just the best hardware. Pockets can be difficult, but that's a whole procedure in doing a pocket door. And we may do a thing on a pocket door. I think the syllabus says something about pocket door. Maybe I'll do something on a pocket door. I have it for a while. So installing a pocket door, install the header and tracking mechanisms and 1-inch framing. I don't know what the hell we're talking about. Fasten the steel channel to the floor, attach steel track, blah, 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 forget it. Bypass doors, this you probably will do a fair amount of as finished carpenters. You will do a fair amount of pocket doors too. They're definitely around. You probably will do more barn doors than you do pocket doors because their barn door hardware is really in vogue right now. And it's a lot easier to do than a pocket door, a lot easier. And the problem with pocket doors is it makes for a really funky wall, right? Because it's a hollow wall with just one by 3/4 inch thick, 3/4 inch thick pine, 1x4s, about, running horizontally in the wall, and then drywall on top of that into metal U channels about every 6 inches. It's just, they're very funky. You can't put anything on them. You can't run baseboard on them. And if you do, you got to run really short nails or glue it to it. And I can't tell you how many times I walked up to a pocket door, pulled on it and pulled on it and pulled on it. And not being able to open it because some idiot has nailed it closed somehow. You know what I mean? They've nailed something to it. They've nailed a baseboard to it. They've hung a towel holder to it. Great towel holder, but the door doesn't work. So, but they are handy. They are definitely handy, and but bypassing closet doors are still really in vogue. Although butt hung pairs are become more and more the thing for closet doors, but a lot of closets still bypass. It is relatively cheap. You know, you jam the opening. You don't even have to jam the opening. The cheap way to do it is you just drywall the opening. You hang the head jam and you hang the doors. And it has a guide at the bottom that guides your doors. And the rule of thumb on a bypass door is, God, I think it's a call out +1 because you have a ½ inch overlap, right? Don't quote me on that. I'll get that one straight for you. But bypass closet doors are great. And there's also 3-track bypass closet doors. They're not that hard to do, but they do take a little bit of time because we like to hang them with a jam. Then you have to trim the jam out, case it both sides, and the jam's got to be good and square. You got to definitely put an X on it. And then got to hang that. You got a good level head, and then hang that head, and then it's not that tough to hang those pocket doors. And the last thing you do is make sure they're hanging plumb and install that bottom track, and you're off to the races. But carpets and things like that can screw you up. So I'm going to show you how to cut a door. I'll still do that. And what else? Bifold doors, those are kind of fun too, but kind of tricky. They're not that much fun. Bypass doors or bifold doors are not that much fun because they're also kind of flimsy, and the hardware is I don't really like them that much, but you may have opportunities to hang them, and we can go over them, but we're not going to spend much time now. Multi-fold doors, you've probably never seen one of those. Folding doors, you just don't see them around here. And then moldings, God, we have moldings forever. Wood or plastic strips. Doubt you're going to use much plastic, but door moldings cover the space between the jamb and the wall coverings. That one's not cased. That one's cased. So casing, so somebody's going to remind me, casings and cutting a door. Casings and cutting a door, okay? I'm cutting this off. Casings and cutting a door, we're gonna call it. So casings and cutting a door. So doors are basically either cased or bonus. The jambs can be just grounded to, and I'll show you that. I'll illustrate to you what I mean by that. And then I probably won't show you how to cut doors. I might make that a whole partial class because I want to show you all how to make this really cool door cutting guide. I can't do that in just a couple of minutes. So this will just take a few minutes, and then you get the basics on this. On casing. So a lot of doors, a lot of openings are bullnose here. Doors and windows are bullnose, and that means there's no casing. The drywallers or the plasterers do the trim out, take care of that space between the jamb and so if this is your framing, king stud, trimmer stud, and on a cased door, king stud, trimmer stud, on a cased door, your jamb is going to be 5/8 plus proud of your framing. So that your 5/8 drywall planes in relatively flush with your jamb. So that your casing, whatever it might be, square or profiled, with the back out probably. Bad looking back out. Can contact the jamb, get nailed to the jamb, and can get nailed to the trimmer, which locks your jamb on. That's casing, right? Casing. It can be a piece of square casing. Casing comes in all kinds of casing. Door casing comes in all kinds of styles. You can make up styles. That's casing. That's 5/8 drywall. Now in a bullnosed open windows and or doors, which you'll see a lot of around here, because we have the Spanish style is echoed a lot. Your jambs are flush with the framing. Jam. Jam makes this a jam because there's a door that hangs in there and a stop. Your jam with the door hanging in there. Stop. Is flush with the framing because when the drywall gets hung, stops right about there. And then the drywallers come and put a bead-X corner on it. And typically we kerf. And they put this metal corner, and it's got tape on it, and they actually tuck it into the kerf. Metal corner, and it's got tape on it. And that tape is basically mudded on, it's part of the mudding, and the texturing of the wall, and the texture actually goes around like that, and it creates all the way around it. It actually miters in the corner. It creates a bullnose that covers the gap between the jamb and the wall. That covers that gap, which is what same thing the casing does, which is what this is talking about, what that was talking about, right? Casing covers that gap, trims out the door. Bullnose trims out the door. No casing on bullnose. The bullnose is the casing. And this happens a lot. Now there's more than one way to do this. You can do this in the last house I built last year. We had a mill core. It's square. So rather than a bullnose, it was a mill core or square corner. And so the drywall just came and then this was actually metal, but you can't really tell the difference because it's all painted out and then disappeared in the jam. Square corners. My house has grounds, has plaster grounds. My house has a jam, which has a ground. So my house looks like this, and the plaster grounds there. The finishes there. So I got lath and plasterized. I have little pieces of lath. The spaces in between the plaster can go into, and then this is all 7/8 of an inch of interior plaster, and it leaves about 1/8 inch of my jam is proud. When you look at it face on, you see wall and just that 3/4 or 7/8 of an inch of edge of jam. That's a pretty old fashioned way to do it, but I've done it. I've done this in modern times. Also, people like that detail. So that's a grounded detail, basically no casing. Casing, bullnose, no core. Three ways to trim out. And then in trimming out with casing, you're basically going to be a mitered casing, and all your profile casings will be mitered. Not necessarily. You could use plinth blocks too, but when you have a profile casing, that's a profile casing. That there. Profile casing has to be mitered. Well, I take it back. If you use a plinth block, you don't have to miter. If you use a plinth block, and I'll illustrate those. So this is the. This is the same case, and this miter's opposite. Miter needs to be like that, but you can't really butt this. You see that? You can't really butt this. You couldn't butt this. You couldn't run this guy up. That doesn't look too cool, does it? Can you see that? Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not how you'd ever do it. It just wouldn't be cool. It's not meant to do that way. So that when you have a profile, you have to cut a miter on it. Just like that, back a miter on it. And then the profile continues. by cutting a miter, the profile continues. See it? Yeah, you've seen it a million times. Okay, you can use plinth blocks like that illustration showed up in the corners. Then you don't have to miter with the profile casing. That's one way of not mitering. Have a rose, what we call a rosette or a plinth block, usually have cutouts, and then have your casing butt to it. And it can come down to the floor, or it can come down to another plinth block at the floor too, and be butted. Typically profile casing, miters. Now, I like what I got in my house, and what most California bungalows have in their house, and what almost all Craftsman style places have in their houses, is interior trim. Now, we're only talking about interior trim now, and it can be, this trim can be done on exterior doors and windows. And by the way, windows are all exterior. This can be done on the interior of doors and windows as well, but not necessarily on the exterior. Is a Craftsman, what I call a Craftsman style trim casing, which is budded. And we will do it on one of these doors. I had it up for a long time, but it's a square, usually with eased edges, head trim. Eased it, and with eased edges, like 1/8 inch eased edges, so they're not dead square, the edges. And it's 1 inch thick. And legs with maybe a 3/8 reveal. And so like a pretty standard Craftsman style, this would be 5 inches. The legs would be 4 inches. And this is 3/4 stock. And this is 1 inch stock. 3/8 reveal. That's a pretty typical Craftsman door casing, where your head is 1 inch and your legs are 3/4. So that when your side view, wall, 1 inch head, 3/4 leg, you get it? So you can butt that with an eased edge here and not have it look funny. Because this is 3/4 and that's 1 inch, or this is 3/4 and this is 1/2 inch. Either way, this is smaller. And in a window casing, you do something similar, only you have to do stuff with a stool. So on a window interior, you have that head trim run by. You have a reveal. You have your legs. Now you can do a picture frame, mitered window trim, or you can do more of a classic, and you can do a mitered head as well and do a stool and apron, because this comes down to a stool. It's called a stool. And then this is the apron. Now that's a classic window trim from the interior, Craftsman style. Thicker head, slightly thinner legs and apron trim, and then an 1.25 inch stool. On the inside, that's called a stool. On the outside, looking at this thing in cross section, this would be your stool. They're typically and classically kind of cut back like that. And then you got your apron trim underneath. Your sashes up here, and then out here is your sill, the drip curve. Right? That's totally exaggerated, but this would be exterior, so water runs off your sill. Be more of an angle about like that. And on the interior, you have a stool. Your window jams in here. Stool kind of gives you a little bit, but you've seen it before. Yeah. Stool and apron. All right. Any questions? Questions? Any questions at all?
Seal outside, right?
Sill outside, stool inside. And a lot of people are confused that they call stool sills, and just like people call water heaters hot water heaters. Some people call concrete cement. That's like calling a car a transmission. Anyway, so let's go home. See you all next Tuesday. See some of you tomorrow.
Thank
See
you,
next
Rod.
Tuesday.
Thank you, Rodney.
Chapter 22. Read it. We're gonna be on chapter 22 for a bit. It's a good finished Carpenter chapter. And see all you gang.
Oh, thanks, Rodney. See you tomorrow.
It's a deal. Later. See you, Rodney. Thank you. See you for sure.
Rodney, what was the name of the type of casing that you have in your home?
I have, it's what I call a Craftsman style casing.
No, the, for the doors, where the, jam meets the.
The grounded. It's a plaster grounded jam. I don't, that's the only way I'm gonna describe it.
Okay.
Where the plaster wall grounds the jam. So all you see is the edge of the jam.
Right.
I'd call that a plaster grounded jam. Okay, let's stop the recording.